January 2025. A process server stands outside Trump Tower in Manhattan, legal documents in hand. Security won't let him through the door. Inside, somewhere in those golden corridors, Melania Trump is running. Not from paparazzi, not from reporters, from a lawsuit. Author Michael Wolff has done what few people dare. He's taken the First Lady of the United States to court, claiming she violated his constitutional right to speak about her past. Her past with Jeffrey Epstein. Melania threatened to sue Wolff for $1 billion. She gave him a deadline. Retract your story, apologize, or face legal destruction. Wolff's response? No. And then he sued her first. Now Melania is rushing to federal court, not to prove her innocence, but to move the case away from New York. She claims she doesn't even live there anymore. She says she's a Florida resident. Wolff says that's a lie. The photographs won't go away. Melania at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, smiling, relaxed, like old friends. The questions won't stop. What did she know? When did she know it? And why won't she answer? This is the story of a First Lady in federal court, fighting not to clear her name, but to avoid answering questions entirely. Let's go back to where this started. October 15th, 2025. Melania Trump's legal team sends a letter to Michael Wolff. The language is clear and threatening. Retract your statements about Melania and Jeffrey Epstein. Issue a public apology. Make a monetary proposal to compensate for the harm you've caused. If you refuse, we will sue you for over $1 billion. The letter accuses Wolff of publishing false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading, and inflammatory statements in an article for the Daily Beast. In that piece, Wolff reported on Melania's connection to the Epstein scandal, suggesting there was more to their relationship than casual acquaintance. Melania's lawyers claim these statements are obviously defamatory under applicable law. They demand immediate action. They give Wolff a deadline. Wolff doesn't blink. He refuses to apologize for what he considers protected speech under the First Amendment. He believes his reporting is accurate. He believes Melania is trying to silence him. 6 days later, on October 21st, 2025, Wolff files a lawsuit against Melania Trump in New York State Supreme Court. He invokes New York's anti-SLAPP statute. SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. Anti-SLAPP laws protect journalists and citizens from frivolous lawsuits designed to intimidate them into silence. Wolff argues that Melania's billion-dollar threat is exactly that, an attempt to chill his First Amendment rights. Here's the twist. Instead of Melania suing Wolff for defamation, Wolff is suing Melania for threatening to sue him. And Melania has a problem. If she wants to prove Wolff defamed her, she'll have to file a countersuit. She'll have to sit for depositions. She'll have to answer questions under oath about Jeffrey Epstein, about Mar-a-Lago in the early 2000s, about those photographs. She hasn't filed that countersuit. Instead, she's doing something else entirely. She's running. Let's talk about those photographs. Early 2000s, Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach. In one image, Melania Trump stands beside Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew is in the frame. So is Ghislaine Maxwell. So is Epstein associate Ghislaine Beck. They're smiling. They're relaxed. They look like friends. In another photo, Donald Trump, Melania, Epstein, and Maxwell pose together. This isn't a chance encounter at a public event. These are people who knew each other, who spent time together, who socialized in the same circles. Melania married Donald Trump in 2005. By then, Epstein was a regular at Mar-a-Lago. He had been for years. Did Melania know about Epstein's activities? Did she know about the allegations? Did she ever witness anything? Those are questions Michael Wolff is asking. And those are questions Melania doesn't want to answer. Wolff's lawsuit sits in New York State Supreme Court for weeks. But there's a catch. He needs to serve Melania with the legal papers, formal notification that she's being sued. He tries to serve her at Mar-a-Lago. She's not available. He tries to serve her at Trump Tower. Security blocks the process server. He tries to serve her in Washington, D.C. No luck. Wolff later tells his followers that Melania is running from him, avoiding service to delay the inevitable. Process servers who regularly work in Trump Tower confirm that Melania lives there, not in the White House. One server approaches Trump Tower. Security stops him at the entrance. When they find out the papers are for the First Lady, they tell him they'll throw any legal documents in the garbage. But they confirm something important. Melania Trump lives in Trump Tower. The First Lady of the United States does not live in the White House. She lives in a Manhattan skyscraper. Then, something changes. Melania's legal team files a notice of removal in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. It's a strategic move. She's removing Wolff's lawsuit from state court to federal court, claiming that federal jurisdiction applies because she and Wolff are residents of different states. Under federal law, if two parties in a lawsuit are from different states and the amount in dispute exceeds $75,000, the defendant can move the case to federal court. It's called diversity jurisdiction. Melania's argument is simple. Wolff filed his lawsuit in the wrong court. She's not a New York resident. She's a Florida citizen, and the case belongs in federal court. But there's a problem with her argument. She admits in her filing that she has not been validly served with the lawsuit. Wolff couldn't find her to serve her, so she's voluntarily entering an appearance in federal court to fight jurisdiction. She's claiming she doesn't live in New York, but Wolff disputes that claim entirely. Here's what makes this case particularly significant. Melania filed her removal notice in the Southern District of New York, the same federal courthouse where Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, the same courthouse where Jeffrey Epstein faced charges before his death, the same courthouse where the Department of Justice claims it recently identified 1.2 to 5 million additional records related to the Epstein files. Melania is now fighting her legal battle in the very building where Epstein's crimes were prosecuted. In her removal filing, Melania provides 4 key facts to prove she's a Florida resident. 1. Since October 30, 2019, she has designated her primary residence as Mar-a-Lago, located at 1100 South Ocean Boulevard, Palm Beach, Florida. 2. Since October 30, 2019, she has been registered to vote in Florida and cast her votes in federal elections in 2020, 2022, and 2024. 3. Since September 2021, she has maintained a valid driver's license issued by the state of Florida. 4. When not in Washington, D.C., carrying out her official duties as First Lady, she spends the majority of her time at her primary residence in Palm Beach, Florida. Melania argues these facts are established and indisputable, but Michael Wolff disputes them. He claims Melania lives in Trump Tower in New York as her primary residence. When she's not in Washington, D.C., she's in New York, not Mar-a-Lago. She may visit Florida for Christmas, New Year's, and special events, but her actual home is Manhattan. If Wolff is right, the case stays in state court. If Melania is right, it moves to federal court. The question becomes, how do you prove where someone actually lives? Legal experts predict Wolff's team will request jurisdictional discovery, a limited form of investigation focused solely on determining Melania's domicile. They'll file document requests, they'll ask for admission of facts, and they'll take Melania's deposition, questioning her under oath for 90 minutes to 2 hours. The questions would be pointed. Where were you last week? Where were you the week before that? Since Donald Trump took office, how many days have you spent at Mar-a-Lago? Produce your flight records. How do you travel to Florida? Produce the flight manifests. How many days have you spent at Trump Tower since October 2019? Where does your son Barron live? Does he live with you in Washington, D.C.? Did he live with you in New York when he attended NYU? These questions matter because legal residency isn't just about where you're registered to vote. It's about where you actually spend your time, where your life is centered, where your family lives. And there's evidence that complicates Melania's claim. Barron Trump, Melania's 18-year-old son, enrolled at New York University in 2024. He lived in New York during his first semester, but then, according to reports, he moved back to Washington, D.C., and is now taking NYU courses remotely from the capital. Was Melania living with him in New York during his time at NYU? Is she living with him now in Washington, D.C.? These questions will likely come up in jurisdictional discovery. There are also recent events. On Christmas Day at Mar-a-Lago, models who were members of the club allegedly took covert photos of Barron during the holiday celebration. According to gossip columnist Rob Shooter, Melania and other Mar-a-Lago insiders threatened these models with harsh punishment, including potential expulsion from the club and lifetime bans. At New Year's, Melania was photographed with Donald and Barron at another Mar-a-Lago event. She was there for the holidays, but holidays are temporary. Where does she live the rest of the year? What's most striking about Melania's legal strategy is what she hasn't done. She hasn't sued Michael Wolff for defamation. She threatened to sue him for over $1 billion. She gave him a deadline. She demanded a retraction and apology. But when the deadline passed and Wolff refused, she didn't file. Why? If Melania truly believes Wolff defamed her, if she truly believes his statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein are false and damaging, why not sue him? Filing a defamation lawsuit would put the burden on her to prove Wolff's statements are false. It would open her up to discovery. Wolff's lawyers would request emails, text messages, phone records, financial documents. They would depose her under oath. They would ask about Epstein, about Mar-a-Lago, about those photographs from the early 2000s. She would have to explain how she ended up in those photos. She would have to explain what she knew about Epstein's activities. She would have to explain whether she was aware of his connections to underage girls, whether she attended parties where victims were present, whether she ever witnessed anything suspicious. Those are questions Melania apparently doesn't want to answer. So, instead of suing Wolff, she's fighting his lawsuit against her. She's trying to move it to federal court, where she'll likely file a motion to dismiss, arguing that Wolff has no valid claim. She's playing defense, not offense. It's a strategy that suggests weakness. When someone threatens to sue you for $1 billion and then doesn't follow through, it raises questions. Were they bluffing? Are they afraid of discovery? Do they have something to hide? This isn't the first time Melania has used this tactic. She also threatened to sue Hunter Biden in 2024, claiming he defamed her. She gave him a deadline and demanded an apology. He didn't apologize. She didn't sue. The pattern is clear. Melania threatens legal action to silence critics, but when those critics refuse to back down, she doesn't follow through. Michael Wolff addressed this directly in a public statement. He said, "By suing her, we have the right to subpoena her and her husband and their friends, and to ask all concerned about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein." That's exactly what Melania wants to avoid. Here's what we know. Melania Trump was photographed multiple times with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell in the early 2000s at Mar-a-Lago. These weren't random encounters. These were social gatherings where they appeared comfortable together. Michael Wolff reported on these connections and suggested there was more to the relationship than Melania has publicly acknowledged. Melania denies this and calls Wolff's reporting false and defamatory. But instead of suing Wolff to prove her case, she threatened him with $1 billion lawsuit if he didn't retract and apologize. Wolff refused. He sued her first, claiming her threats violated his First Amendment rights. Melania avoided service of the lawsuit for weeks, forcing Wolff's team to chase her across multiple states. When she finally responded, she didn't file a defamation countersuit. Instead, she rushed to federal court, claiming she's a Florida resident and the case doesn't belong in New York. Wolff disputes this and claims she actually lives in Trump Tower in Manhattan. The case now sits in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, the same courthouse where Epstein and Maxwell faced justice. Legal experts predict jurisdictional discovery will force Melania to answer questions under oath about where she lives, where she spends her time, and potentially about her connections to Epstein. Those are questions she's been avoiding. Those are questions she threatened $1 billion lawsuit to prevent. And now, those questions are coming whether she wants to answer them or not. Michael Wolff's message to Melania is clear. If you think I defamed you, sue me. Prove it in court. But don't threaten to silence me and expect me to back down. Melania's response so far has been to run. from process servers, from state court, from the questions themselves. But in federal court, in the same building where Epstein's crimes were exposed, running becomes harder. The photographs are public, the questions are legitimate, and the First Amendment protects journalists who ask them. Melania Trump denies what Wolff alleges. She calls it false and defamatory. But she won't sue him to prove it. Instead, she's fighting in federal court over where she lives, hoping to dismiss the case on a technicality before discovery forces her to answer the real questions. Where does Melania Trump actually live? What did she know about Jeffrey Epstein? And why won't she answer? The case continues. The questions remain. And those photographs from Mar-a-Lago? They're not going anywhere. This is a First Lady in federal court, not fighting to clear her name, but fighting to avoid the questions entirely. The truth doesn't run, but Melania Trump is. Stay informed. The story's far from over.